everyone. My name is Dia Srinath, and I serve as the president of the Washington and Lee Alpha Circle of Omicron Delta Kappa. I welcome you to this initiation ceremony held on your behalf.
My name is Anna Bosking, and I serve as vice president of the Washington and Lee Alpha Circle of Omicron Delta Kappa. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the fire exits located behind me and back where you came in.
I'm delighted to introduce our speaker for this initiation, Provost Lena Hill. Provost Hill is an accomplished scholar and dedicated educator, has demonstrated impressive administrative and leadership skills, as well as a deep appreciation for liberal arts throughout her career. Provost Hill came to WNL as a professor of English and Africana Studies and served as the dean of the college. She was appointed to provost in 2021 after serving on the search committees for both the Director of Institutional History and Vice President for Advancement. Please welcome Provost Hill.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction and welcome. So good to see everyone on this beautiful afternoon. I'd like to begin by congratulating my fellow inductees. It's an honor to be among such an impressive group, and it is particularly special to be inducted at Washington and Lee, the birthplace of ODK and the institution that greatly values student leadership. So, I'm going to get right to it. I've titled my remarks this afternoon, Leading with Grace and Understanding. Every leader has a choice when it comes to selecting a leadership style. You can privilege certain virtues and downplay others. We are all born with innate gifts, but it's up to each of us to determine the leadership traits we cultivate and lean into, not because they come naturally, but because we aspire to be effective leaders. Leadership takes work. It's not something you are born knowing how to do. We'd only need look at the many disastrous monarchs throughout history to know that this is so. Ask England how Richard III worked out for them. There's a reason that Shakespeare's play about him has the highest body count. This afternoon, I want to advocate for cultivating grace as you develop as leaders. And before you think, well, I skipped ballet class, so Provost Hill is not talking to me, let me clarify what I mean when I point to the importance of adding grace to your leadership repertoire. The first definition of grace is elegance and beauty of movement or expression, seemingly effortless charm of movement. Many people focus on the first part of this initial definition, the elegance and beauty of movement, and think that moving with beauty is principally what it means to be graceful. We also often think grace is gendered. But as a child growing up in Georgia, I was an avid Atlanta Hawks fan, and I found few better examples of grace than when I watched Dominique Wilkins in the legendary dunk contest of the 1980s. Dominique went head-to-head with Michael Jordan in some truly epic battles, besting Jordan in 1985 and coming in second to him in 1988 when he was robbed because the contest was in Chicago. I see, right? You feel me. He was robbed. I actually went back and looked at a clip last night and got mad all over again, and I was like, it's been 30 years, I need to move on. But it really is true that Dominique was graceful. The second emphasis on grace in that first definition, I think, is more important for leaders, and that is elegance and beauty of expression. Honing the ability to express ourselves with grace means much more than developing an eloquent tongue. It's the substance of what we say that reflects grace more convincingly than how we say something. Now, the next definition of grace focuses on character. Grace is a disposition to be generous or helpful, a sense of propriety and consideration for others. In thinking about this definition, I want to ask, what makes us generous and helpful? Clearly, some of us were the kids who shared cookies as soon as they were given to us, and some kept everything to ourselves. Is there no hope for the small cookie monsters out there? I think there is, because we can learn to be generous and considerate, especially if we value these traits. The final definition I want to highlight relates to action bestowed, and that is grace is favor rendered by one who need not do so, in the religious sense of the word, unmerited favor from God. Now, I'm not suggesting that we think of ourselves as gods or that we must believe in grace as defined by Christianity. But again, digging into the notion of why some people render favor, even when circumstances make it unnecessary, even when they do not occupy a position of power, tells us something about the connection between grace and understanding. So I'm going to stop listing definitions because there are actually a lot more. So I'm going to stop there and let you in on a secret. You could not be at a better university where you can learn to lead with grace. Now, do I say this because of our core values of honor and civility at WNL? Partially. Honor and civility are indeed crucial attributes when we think about how we should conduct ourselves as leaders, but it would be a mistake to conflate civility with grace. Civility is defined as courteous behavior, politeness, good manners. I want to suggest that civility is at its best when it is undergirded by grace. Grace suggests a willingness to accept human complexity. This is not to say that grace leads to agreeing with all human action or signing on to all human ideas, but most people who show grace to others have not only grasped, but come to understand the manifold reality of the human condition. It just so happens that the work of understanding human complexity is the goal of a liberal arts education. This fact distinguishes the liberal arts from every other educational philosophy. At WNL, our experiential legal studies curriculum is also infused with core liberal arts values. Wide exposure to the humanities, arts, and sciences helps us examine who we are by inspiring self-reflection and inward education. But the texts and ideas that turn our attention inward are not doing so to be self-indulgent. We strive toward greater self-understanding as part of a deeper drive to comprehend human existence. The liberal arts seeks to teach us to think well enough to look upon the world with greater discernment. As one scholar argues, a collegiate liberal arts curriculum strives to, quote, anchor our thinking culture and thereby anchor our civic strength as a country. WNL is one of the best places to achieve such anchoring. This is important as it is nearly impossible to show authentic abiding grace to someone when you cannot conceive of their humanity. When you cannot imagine human experiences that might lead to certain choices and beliefs that are antithetical to your own values, you are less likely to practice true grace. It takes an emotionally sophisticated person to behave graciously, and one outcome of a liberal arts education is to develop your capacity to understand humanity more broadly and expansively. Some argue that we should find new words to describe a liberal education. I know you've seen that in the news. As a scholar of African American literature, I disagree. The notion of freedom holds a crucial place in the history of Black Americans, and the word liberal places the liberating work of education at the center of the project that transformed African American existence in the United States. Black literature is founded upon questions of the human condition, and these writers that I teach not only place the question of humanity at the center of their literary production, but they also seek to teach others to examine the meaning of a life well lived. With that in mind, I want to begin to bring together the two threads I've been developing to focus the remainder of my remarks. I've suggested that you cultivate grace to lead more effectively. And I've argued that a liberal arts education will aid you in this work. I want to dedicate the rest of my time to probing a few rich examples drawn from African American literature to model how sharpening our minds, really sharpening our minds by engaging rich texts, helps us understand grace in useful ways. We learn to think well, I hope you're finding this every day in your classes, by grappling with ideas by thinkers across many disciplines. I offer the following examples because they have shaped my own deepening understanding of human complexity in vital, resonant terms that continue to guide me today. So, one of the first writers I teach in my course on African American literature and visual culture is Phil Sweetley. I'm going to teach this course this coming fall. Wheatley was the first Black woman to publish a full text in the United States in 1773. And when I teach this on the first day of class, we go to special collections because W&L owns one of the earliest American editions, published in 1802, of her book of poems, and so we can handle that book. To Maecenas is the first poem in this volume, and it reflects Wheatley's contemplation of her own artistic aptitude. So let me share a moment from that poem where she ponders grace, and I hope you'll all go check this poem out afterwards. But I, less happy, cannot raise the song. The faltering music dies upon my tongue. The happier Terence all the choir inspired, his soul replenished and his bosom fired. But say, ye muses, why this partial grace to one of lone of Afrique's sable race? From age to age transmitting thus his name, why the finest glory in the rolls of fame? Thy virtues, great Maecenas, shall be sung in praise of him from whom those virtues sprung. While blossoming wreaths around thy temple spread, I'll snatch a laurel from thine honored head, while you, indulgent, smile upon the deed. I know you now all want to go read that poem. While Wheatley's reference to partial grace is a question for the Muses, the 9 sisters of Greek mythology who were considered the source of inspiration of knowledge embodied in the literary arts, she wonders why so few writers of African descent have created poetry recorded through the centuries. But she doesn't bewail the state of affairs, nor does she disparage those who've been celebrated. Instead, in these lines, Wheatley expounds upon her own growing confidence. In promising to snatch a laurel from the honored head of Maecenas, a long-heralded and admired supporter of the arts, she resolves to determine her own artistic future. Wheatley's posture embodies an important tenet of leading with grace. She exhibits a generosity of spirit that stems from self-understanding rather than a position of power. She had no power. This was 1773. Her growing understanding of writers who came before her, together with her mastery of an increasingly sophisticated poetic form, builds her artistic assurance and ability to show grace. Now let me turn to W.E.B. Du Bois and the Souls of Black Folk. Yes, right? This is one of my absolute favorite texts to teach. In this 1903 text, Du Bois unveils the resiliency of the human spirit and powerfully reminds us that we can make beauty amidst the most trying moments. In the chapter of the training of Black men, Du Bois argues for the importance of a liberal arts education. He holds no punches in declaring the necessary function of college for lately freed African Americans to begin helping them develop, as he says, a loftier respect for the sovereign human soul that seeks to know itself and the world about it, that seeks a freedom for expansion and self-development. He recognizes that his discovery will not simply be good for African Americans, but will benefit all people. Du Bois concludes the chapter with some of the most potent words in the text. Quote, I sit with Shakespeare, and he winces not. Across the color line, I move arm in arm with Balzac and Dumas, where smiling men and welcoming women glide in gilded halls. From out the caves of evening that swing between the strong-limbed earth and the tracery of the stars, I summon Aristotle and Aurelius, and what soul I will, and they all come graciously, with no scorn nor condescension. So wed with truth, I dwell above the veil. Sounds really good. Now, what does it mean? Du Bois beautifully, passionately, emphatically rejects the notion that only some people should have access to certain kinds of educational experiences. He declares that great writers and thinkers do not discriminate racially or in any other way. They are free to all. They are gracious in leading him beyond the restrictions racial bias attempts to impose. They facilitate his access to truth that allows him to escape the suffocation of a discriminating veil. Du Bois does not seek a deity or royalty to request access. He turns to great thinkers of the past and extols their gracious acceptance. As budding leaders, what can you take from Du Bois's rumination on grace? While Du Bois advocates for learning to think well to escape the narrow ideas that erect false divisions, he reminds us of the importance of enlarging our minds to understand the world around us with nuance and consideration. The final literary example I'd like to share comes from Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. I love teaching this piece of writing because it reminds us that we most need grace when pursuing goals that are not just different, but are inherently opposed to the objectives of others. When we find ourselves in this predicament, King's example underscores that this is not when we put grace down, this is when we strap it on more tightly. This letter, a written document as opposed to a magnificently delivered oratorical triumph, recalls that it's the power of King's ideas rather than the smoothness of his voice, and his voice was smooth, that achieved so much for this nation. And we cannot forget that King was a graduate of a liberal arts institution, Morehouse College, which is actually a member of the Associated Colleges of the South, the same consortium W&L belongs to today. Now, King only uses grace one time in this letter, but the entire missive is an exercise in leading with grace and understanding. He adamantly refuses to absolve the religious leaders of his day for not only failing to support the civil rights movement, but for actually counseling him to slow down and be patient. King displays incredible grace in unpacking the error of their ways. It would be easier and surely more satisfying to just call them out in harsh terms for their hypocrisy, but he is cognizant of the more consequential goal of winning them to his side. So one of my favorite moments in this letter is his recognition of the difficulty of confronting folks with different ideas and the tension that arises from such an impasse. In explaining his support for direct action as opposed to negotiation, King says this: "But I must confess that I am not afraid of the word tension. I have earnestly opposed violent tension, but there is a type of constructive, nonviolent tension which is necessary for growth. Just as Socrates felt that it was necessary to create a tension in the mind so that individuals could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths to the unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal, so must we see the need for nonviolent gadflies to create the kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood." King is reminding us of the necessity of refusing to shy away from difficult ideas. In electing to lead with the grace of eloquent expression, he demonstrates his understanding of these religious leaders' oppositional position only to gracefully reject their cowardice. I'm proud to say that in the 1960s, when King was leading the civil rights movement, student leaders here at W&L were listening to his ideas and eager to digest them with campus peers. In October 1961, W&L student Andrew McPhenia, representing the executive committee of the University Christian Association, wrote to university leaders and noted the following. So these are W&L leaders in 1961, student leaders. They write, "It is our belief that the university should maintain a spirit of intellectual inquiry and academic freedom, that limitation and restriction upon the expression of ideas is a transgression of this cherished spirit, and that an airing of controversial questions and opinions is necessary to further the search for truth. For these reasons, we earnestly urge that the board reconsider its decision in the matter of Reverend Martin Luther King and restore the spirit of academic freedom and opportunity for inquiry, which we hope our trustees would desire to maintain at Washington and Lee University." The students didn't seek to invite King to campus because they all agreed with his views. They simply felt he represented a viewpoint of profound contemporary importance. It took time, but the students were ultimately successful in extending the invitation to MLK to speak at W&L. The 1966 letter, and all of this is in Special Collections. Special Collections is a treasure, so I hope you've made time to go there. But in that 1966 letter, Lewis Hodges, who was the faculty advisor of the University Christian Association, invited Dr. King to W&L by explaining, quote, "The initiative has come from interested students from the South, and for the first time, the student body is desegregated." Now, King declined the invitation, but In January 1967, he wrote and said he didn't come but appreciated the invitation. This interlude in our institution's history reminds us once again of the importance of leading with grace. Because although King didn't come, the students were successful in advancing their investment and fostering a community where different views could be discussed and considered. So I want to conclude with a final example of an experience that profoundly impacted and influenced my belief in the importance of leading with grace. During my sophomore year of college, many, many moons ago, I had the incredible opportunity of participating in a program for students studying emerging multicultural democracies, and we ended a year of this study with a trip to South Africa. It was the summer of 1995, and it had been only 1 year since South Africa had had its first non-racial elections. We met with so many governmental leaders, principals of schools, and others who were at the forefront, and they were our age peers, or maybe just a few years older. And they spoke with such optimism and such belief in the future that I can see them now so clearly in my mind's eye. In the last days of our time there, we actually got to sit in a circle talking to Bishop Desmond Tutu. And he is described as a giant of grace, and he was. I decided right then, sitting on the grass, to strive to lead with grace and understanding, that I would seek to learn enough about those with whom I disagreed that I could behave gracefully, which is different than behaving naively or blindly. You cannot be effective by pretending the differences aligned against you aren't there, but you can be more effective if you've sharpened your mind to understand those differences. These South African leaders also taught me that leading with grace helps take care of your spirit as a leader. Showing grace, even to those who don't deserve it, protects your emotional health, nourishing your soul when you most need such sustenance. For me, striving to lead with grace protects my joy. Sitting here today, you may wonder whether you will face crises as momentous as the civil rights or the end of apartheid. I point to these political struggles because they were largely led by young people, people your age, young adults. Youthful leaders willing to take steps on behalf of a nation. Looking at the world around us today, it seems quite possible that you'll face similarly consequential challenges. That even if your leadership test does not make it into the history books, you must still be prepared. I urge you to get ready by cultivating grace and to begin leading with the grace that comes from understanding human complexity. For the good of this campus while you are here, and for the good of the world after you leave, I exhort you to nurture graceful leadership. I have great faith in you, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Hill. Those of us who are members of Omicron Delta Kappa value its high ideals and purposes as we strive to provide leadership in worthy undertakings and to be of service to others. We believe in the tenets of this society and those principles for which it stands. We are pleased and honored to share them with you today as we welcome you into the Alpha Circle at Washington and Lee University.
We are grateful for the privilege of leadership in worthy undertakings and for the ideals of Omicron Delta Kappa. As we gather to confer the honor of membership upon these duly elected individuals, give to all assembled here a renewed vision of the meaning of Omicron Delta Kappa. Grant that the desire for creative thinking, for high purposes and ideals, for moral strength and integrity may ever remain close to our hearts. Grant also that we may strive without ceasing to incorporate them into our lives as students, faculty, staff, alumni, and civic leaders. Instill in us the principles of faith and courage, of honest work, and of sacrifice for the tasks that lie before us. You have undertaken upon yourselves the obligation of membership in the Omicron Delta Kappa Society. This means that you will ever seek to make it a real factor for good in academic and community life, not only at your own college or university, but with American educational institutions at large and in the communities in which you will lead. As a member, you commit that you will make every effort to practice its high ideals, both in private and public life, so that the world may see you in a concrete, living symbol of the great principles of Omicron Delta Kappa.
Omicron Delta Kappa was founded on December 3, 1914 at Washington and Lee University in Lexington, Virginia. Our 15 founders stated that leadership of exceptional quality and versatility in college should be recognized, that representatives of all pillars of college life should cooperate in worthwhile endeavor, and that outstanding students and faculty members should meet on a basis of common interest, understanding, and helpfulness. The motives which guided the founders sprang from the desire to bring together one body for the general good of the institution, leaders from all parts of the college or university community. The success of Omicron Delta Kappa, an essential part of which is the joint student-faculty character and a determination to maintain a consistent and high standard of leadership recognition, led to the establishment of chapters which we call circles at other universities and colleges. The society in which you are about to become a member has a three-pronged mission: identify, honor, and develop leaders in collegiate and community life. Encourage collaboration among students, faculty, staff, and alumni to advance leadership, and promote, publicize, and enhance our ideals. The Society's ideals are represented by our 5 leadership values: collaboration, to work together to achieve a defined and common purpose; inclusivity, to actively seek, embrace, and advance a diverse group of individuals; integrity, to align one's values and beliefs with behaviors and speech; scholarship, to strive for excellence in academics and to pursue lifelong learning; service, to answer the call for action from one's community or country.
It has ever been our desire and custom to try to symbolize in material form our dreams, ambitions, ideals, and sentiments. In accordance with this innate desire and feeling, Omicron Delta Kappa has also tried to express in material form the key in its noble ideals, lofty aspirations, and altruistic aims. The key, which is struck in the form of a circle, symbolizes union forever and the equality which characterizes membership in Omicron Delta Kappa. Our emblem, the laurel crown circle, stands for success achieved in worthy undertakings. The shape of the key represents the circle, which symbolizes the all-around and inclusive nature of our organization. The 5 stars in the upper bar represent the 5 major pillars of college life, for which our society stands: academics and research, athletics, service to campus and community, communications, and creative and performing arts. The number 1914 on the lower bar indicates the year in which our society was founded.
We who are members of Omicron Delta Kappa have observed your habits, attitudes, and capacities, and are pleased with your success, your steady growth as leaders in worthwhile endeavors, and your appreciation of the ideals and purposes of the society. We have asked you here today to make you members of our society and to present to each of you the laurel crowned circle represented by the key membership, the symbol of achievement. Before we accept you into the Omicron Delta Kappa Society, please listen thoughtfully to these words. You should know that the laurel crowned circle is not only a recognition of past exemplary conduct, but that it must also be to you a constant inspiration to finer and nobler living so long as you shall live.
You should know that the Laurel Crown Circle is not only a recognition of past loyalty to all good works, but that it must also be to you a constant inspiration to unselfish service to the society, to Washington and Lee University, and to your vocation, and a lifelong reminder that if greatness is to be achieved, one must serve. You should know that the Laurel Crown Circle is not only a recognition of past achievement, but it must be a constant inspiration to spend the rest of your days climbing higher and yet higher, ever remembering that death comes apace, and that the longest span of human life is all too short for the completion of the tasks that lie ready to our hands.
Will the candidates for membership please stand if you're able? You have heard in these words the great unchanging principles upon which our society is founded. If you're willing to accept the lofty ideals, the sense of devotion, and the spirit of aspiration represented in Omicron Delta Kappa, please respond, I will. Then please repeat after me. In the presence of the circle here assembled, I solemnly promise to uphold the ideals and traditions, the Constitution and bylaws of the Omicron Delta Kappa Society, and to support in loyal service its local and national officers, to participate in its meetings, ceremonies, and initiatives, and to diligently foster lifelong leadership. Thank you. You may be seated. You have committed yourself to the principles of the Omicron Delta Kappa Society and to our timeless leadership values of collaboration, inclusivity, integrity, scholarship, and service. From this day forward and throughout each stage of your life, you will strive to serve as a living example of excellence in leadership. You have been chosen to wear this emblem of distinction because of your loyalty and devotion to Washington and Lee University and to things that are fine and true in life. Whenever possible, wear this pin with pride to demonstrate the honor bestowed upon you today. As your name is called, come forward to sign the official record of the Alpha Circle and receive emblems of membership in our society. We will first begin with the honorary initiates. First up is Michelle Drumble. Michelle Drumble is the Robert O. Bentley Professor of Law and Director of the School of Law's Tax Clinic. Since 2023, she has also served as the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs for Washington and Lee's Law School. Drumble has been at the law school since 2004. As Director of the Tax Clinic, Drumble provides representation for low-income taxpayers in IRS disputes and educational outreach on tax-related matters. Further supporting the community, she is one of the nation's leading scholars on the Earned Income Tax Credit, a major source of financial support for Rockbridge community. Drumble has been selfless in her service to the university. She served as interim dean during the 2021-2022 academic year and has served on and chaired a wide range of law school committees, namely as faculty representative to the Board of Trustees and member of the Faculty Advisory Committee working group to the Trustee Task Force. Drumble earned her Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Emory University and holds a Juris Doctorate from George Washington University School of Law. In 2002, Drumble received her Master of Laws in Taxation from New York University School of Law. Prior to W&L, she was an attorney for the Office of Associate Chief Counsel for the IRS. Next up is Lena Hill. Lena Hill is Washington and Lee's provost and a professor of English and Africana Studies. Provost Hill arrived at W&L to serve as the Dean of College in 2018. She served in that role until 2021, where she was appointed her current position, where she continues to lead with distinction. During her time as an academic leader, Provost Hill is credited with significantly diversifying the faculty at W&L by developing a series of initiatives to promote hiring best practices. She is also known for spearheading faculty and staff development programs like the newly established Employee Research Group, as well as mentoring system for new faculty. Hill directed the inclusion of Washington and Lee in the National Consortium for Faculty Diversity and instituted the Ted Delaney postdoctoral program in the college, which has since been expanded to the Williams School. Provost Hill received her Bachelor of Arts in English from Howard University in 1997, followed by her PhD in English from Yale University in 2005. Before coming to W&L, she served in multiple roles at the University of Iowa, including Associate Professor of English and African American Studies, Senior Associate to the University President, and Interim Chief Diversity Officer and Associate Vice President from 2006 to 2018. Provost Hill has also taught at multiple institutions in the country, including Duke University, Yale University, and University of North Carolina. Next up is Valerie Moliterno. Valerie is a native of Southern California and was born and raised and educated there. After receiving a bachelor's degree in psychology from UCLA, she started a 29-year career with IBM, mostly in management positions. She held various positions in finance, administration, and sales, and ended her career managing a global program to recruit and negotiate partner agreements with smaller technical companies. Moliterno moved to Lexington 12 years ago to marry the love of her life. Since coming to town, she has been an active volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, where she served and chaired the building committee and served as treasurer. She is currently a volunteer with RARA, where she has served as a food pantry and helpline volunteer, treasurer, and is in her third year as the board president. Valerie loves to cook and travel, and she and her husband Jim travel internationally frequently. Next up is Eric Spencer. Eric Spencer is the president and owner of Spencer Home Center. He is a Lexington native who graduated from Randolph-Macon College and later returned to the area to help with the family business, Spencer Home Center. After the untimely death of his father, Eric took over the role of president and has nearly tripled the business volume over the past 20 years. Through the business and its employees, Spencer Home Center has been instrumental in supporting various nonprofit community organizations, including Habitat for Humanity. Additionally, he helped with donating land for the development of Greenhouse Village. In 2009, Eric helped establish Cornerstone Bank. Eric was involved in raising the capital to open the bank and has served as a director since the beginning. Over the years, Eric has served on the board of several local organizations, including the Lexington Rockbridge Chamber of Commerce, Rockbridge Health Center, Ducks Unlimited, and the Lexington Golf and Country Club. He has been married for 28 years to Jamie Spencer, who is a reading specialist. They have 2 daughters, Emma and Catherine. Next is Jane Stewart. Jane Stewart is the Director of Sustainability for Washington and Lee University. Stewart has numerous roles since she came to W&L in 2006, including the Assistant Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations and Director of Parent Giving, before becoming one of the university's inaugural energy specialists in 2011. Stewart's efforts to recommend improvements in campus infrastructure and leadership in student and employee education have resulted in significant reductions in W&L's campus utility consumption and carbon footprint. Stewart was also instrumental in updating the university's Climate Action Plan in 2019, identifying interim goals for the next decade that will help keep the university on track to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. As co-chair for the university's Sustainability Committee since 2019, her work has raised awareness of sustainability issues among hundreds of students and employees. Additionally, Stewart's careful analysis and consensus-building leadership have resulted in significant advances in sustainability initiatives across campus. Stewart earned her Bachelor of Arts in Comparative Literature from Columbia University, following which she completed the certificate program in Energy Innovation and Emerging Technologies through Stanford University's Center for Professional Development, with an emphasis on solar cell technology in 2016. In addition to her work at Washington and Lee, Stewart has served as a board member for the Rockbridge Area Conservation Council since 2019 and been a member of the Virginia Conservation Network since 2020. Next up, Jennifer Waller. Jennifer Waller is the national president of Omicron Delta Kappa in Lexington, Virginia. Prior to her appointment in 2023, Waller spent a year as the Director of Special Projects for the Association of College and University Housing Officers International. For a decade before this, she served as the executive director of the Association for Student Conduct Administration, where her executive leadership led to a greater than 60% increase in the association's membership. Waller's experience also includes working at Texas A&M University and the University of Hawaii as Residence Life Coordinator. Director of Complex Residence Life at Texas Tech University, Hall Director at the University of Wisconsin. She earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in Speech Communication from Eastern Illinois University. Waller also received a Master of Education with a focus in Higher Education Administration from the University of Hawaii before entering her PhD in Higher Education Administration from Texas A&M University. She is a member of the American Society for Association Executives, the Florida Society of Association Executives, and NASPA Student Affairs Administrators in Higher Education. Please have a round of applause for our honorary initiates. Will the inductees from the undergraduate class of 2024 please rise and file toward the set of your stairs to your right. When I call your name, please come up to the stage to be tapped and sign our book. Please hold your applause until I have read each initiate in this class year. Emma Conover. Jenny Ehler. Martha Ernest. Cami Fishman. Cole Gershkovich. Jasmine Gibson. Duncan Hart. Kat Hudson. Jordan Johns. Gabby Kogan. John Lee. Kayla Monahan. Jordan Palethorpe. Charlotte Pete. Lily Petzinger in absentia. Emma Robertson. Elizabeth Chavold. Annie Thomas. Tyler Waldman. Please join us in congratulating the undergraduate class of 2024 initiatives. Will the inductees from the undergraduate class of 2025 please rise and file toward the set of stairs to your right. When I call your name, please come up to the stage to be tapped and sign our book. Please hold your applause until I have read each initiate in this class year. Christina Ayers. Ben Bankston. Janae Darby in absentia. Mariam Drama. Jorge Gomez. Sophie Huber in absentia. Jana Halsey. Avani Kashyap. Sarah Lathrop. Caroline Lennon. Emma Malinak. Charlie Milchek. Lizzie Nguyen in absentia. Alexis Park in absentia. Yuchen Chion. Parker Sparks in absentia. Eli Stobby. Trip Wright. Please join us in congratulating the undergraduate class of 2025 initiative. Will the inductees from the law school please rise and file toward the set of stairs to your right? When I call your name, please come up to the stage to be tapped and sign our book. Please hold your applause until I have read each initiates in this class year. Julia Farbstein. David Scott Coven. Artem Valinsky. Martin Flores. Sadie Mapstone. Jack Perryman. Gabriella Roberts. Ryan Scott. Please join us in congratulating the law school initiates. In addition to inducting new members of the Alpha Circle of Omicron Delta Kappa today, we have 3 awards to recognize spectacular leaders in our community. The first award is the James Leyburn Award. The James Leyburn Award is given to a campus or local organization that demonstrates outstanding community service. This award is awarded to Rockbridge Recovery. Rockbridge Recovery is a nonprofit, peer-run resource center for people who struggle with both mental health and substance use. Committed to assisting others on their recovery journeys, Rockbridge Recovery's goal is to help community members overcome their burdens and achieve long-term recovery by providing a variety of support groups, counseling, and ongoing support. These services, in addition to grief support like life skills awareness, resource assistance, and transportation to the center, are offered at no charge to community members who need them, dramatically increasing the organization's impact on the Rockbridge area. Established in 2022, the organization was founded specifically to provide additional rehabilitation assistance and has since expanded to address the needs of numerous community groups. In March 2024, Rockbridge Recovery plans to open the Hope House, which will provide full-time housing and support to up to 6 men struggling with addiction and homelessness. The next award is the Rupert Nelson Latour Award. This award recognizes a sophomore who has demonstrated outstanding leadership potential. This award is awarded to Daniel Ryder. Daniel is a sophomore from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, majoring in business administration and theater. As a Bonner Scholar, Daniel is heavily engaged in the Shepherd Program. He is an advocate for Blue Ridge Mile, a student-led program committed to supporting clients in navigating the steps required to obtain or reinstate a driver's license. Daniel is also a founder of Rockbridge County's sensory-friendly theater, arts, and recreation, which aims to empower neurodivergent youth. He serves as a residence advisor, Hillel Social Impact Chair, and a university ambassador for the admissions office. This spring, he will be interning with the Americas for the Arts, the nation's leading nonprofit organization for advancing the arts and arts education as a part of Washington Term. Daniel hopes to continue studying the intersectionality between the arts, politics, and business. Our next award is Circle Leader of the Year. Circle Leader of the Year recognizes a student member of the Circle that best represents the ideals and aspirations of Omicron Delta Kappa. This award is awarded to Devesh Kumar. Devesh is a fourth-year student from Pakistan working towards a double major in math and economics. As the vice president of the executive committee of the student body, Kumar is in charge of administrating the recognition and budget policy, managing the finances of the executive committee, and monitoring and advising all recognized student body organizations. He has served on many EC subcommittees and works to ensure regular student programming on campus. Additionally, interested in financial services, Kumar is now the advisor of the Williams Investment Society, having previously served as the associate director, where he mentors several underclassmen students on investment techniques as well as career and professional development. Currently, he is also co-chair for Cathicon, the student group for alumni relations, where he works with the Office of Alumni Engagement to routinely volunteer for several annual programs, including Alumni Weekend, 5-Star Festival, and Say Hey Day. Kumar is very active in student life on campus, is a peer tutor for economics, and plays leading roles with the Johnson Program and the Center for International Education. And now I would like to welcome Jennifer Waller, National President of Omicron Delta Kappa, to present the next award.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The Washington and Lee University Circle, our Alpha Circle, stands as a beacon of excellence and leadership within our society. And it is a privilege to witness and participate in the induction of you all who embody the values and principles upon which ODK was founded. I am incredibly honored to be invited by Omicron Delta Kappa Alpha Circle to be inducted today. Thank you for including me. But now it's my pleasure to present the Cheryl M. Hogle Distinguished Service Award to an esteemed member of our Washington and Lee University community. Cheryl Hogle was a longtime student affairs leader at SUNY Plattsville. She was the first woman to serve as president of Omicron Delta Kappa. And today, we celebrate her legacy by recognizing an outstanding member who's contributed so much to our society. Dr. Linda Hooks is a 1982 initiate of Louisiana State University Circle. During her time at LSU, she was a student government vice president and Panhellenic president. And she has served as the faculty advisor for the Alpha Circle of ODK here at Washington and Lee from 2010 to 2018. She's also served in a variety of roles for ODK on a national level, including from 2016 to 2018 as a Society Board of Directors member and National Vice President. And in 2021, she was elected as an Emeritus Trustee. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Hooks as the recipient of the Cheryl M. Hogle Distinguished Service Award.
Congratulations. As newly inducted members of our society, you have taken upon yourselves the obligations of membership. We hope you will take it with you and incorporate it into your daily lives, the ideals of excellence in leadership and service that we have affirmed here today. Thank you, Provost Hill, for inspiring us with your words. All initiatives and their family members may proceed to the Lee House for a reception hosted by President Dudley and Dr. Carola Tanna, following a photo of all initiates on the chapel steps outside. Thank you.